Morning, folks. Day's Monday, and we're going to go with Soap Commander. This name, this one here is Refreshment, and you can kind of see right there it says sweet tea. Now, this particular version is a 3-ounce container. You can kind of tell it's a bit smaller than the typical one that's about like what, twice the size or whatever, 6-ounce size, which is just a huge container. But this one here is the 3-ounce size, and this is one of those seasonal scents that was available last year that I picked up. Excuse me. And so I'll use this matching aftershave balm off the camera, but this scent, yeah, spot on sweet tea. It smells great to me. I like it. For some people that may not, suit their nose very well, but for me, a straight up scent like that, I pick it up and it does well for my nose. Got this whipped up here with a brush that's got a synthetic knot. I got this a while back from Metalworks. He doesn't do this sort of work anymore, unfortunately, but it's still a pretty cool looking brush. Aluminum, has a little bit of weight to it. Got it whipped up on the wet side. You can kind of tell it's trying to run out. It's definitely wet, and got it fairly runny. At least for me it is, the way I kind of like it. But I've got it here set up with a Ralf Aust. This one here is a 6/8 blade. You kind of tell. I know, I think it said a Spanish point, I think it says. I don't know if I get some of the glare to come off of it with my hand behind it. You kind of tell it has just a tiny bit of a point to it, but for the most point, for the most part, the point is really not there. Not quite like some of the others that I have that are quite pointy, and you have to be very careful about catching yourself with the point. This one here, I don't consider it much different than a round, but a good looking blade. Be my first time go with this particular one. I have a story to tell you about the rest of it. I've already put a hot towel to the face, and I've got my cloth over here that's damp that I'll be putting my shaving cream on. It helps keep some of the sink water nice and clean. But getting ready to start with my Preshave soap, Phoenix Artisan accoutrements, Preshave. Matter of fact, the humidity here has been a bit on the high side, so the soap is already kind of slippery. This was the Christmas scent. But had a little visitor a few days ago. A young one was over, and I had this already set up, and he found the straight razor, and was curious, and of course, in other words, didn't know what he was getting himself into, and he he cut his finger on the blade, and of course, so the joke about about him finding the sharpest tool in the house was pretty funny at that time. He didn't quite catch it, but anyway, it was interesting. At any rate, this particular shaver, I think dollar-wise, it's right about the $140 mark for a 6/8, and it comes honed also, or you could choose. No, yeah, it comes honed now. Remember, right? Some of the websites, in other words, if you ask the person, they'll go ahead and hone it for you. Otherwise, it comes as is. In other words, with the factory edge. And some places do a pretty good job of having a straight razor, straight from the factory that is considered to be shave ready, and others maybe not quite so much. I know what they mean by that. And, because a lot of times, it is per the user, whether it's really shave ready or not to their standards. And I know some of them I've gotten in the past that, the manufacturer thought that they consider it shave ready, but when I get it, it's like, no, I can't use this. It's one of those where you talk about it being too tuggy, and for me, it's not that it's not cutting the whiskers, because it would cut the whiskers. It's just that I could feel how it's going. There was some soap right there. It's more along the lines that I know that the time I get done shaving with it, that my skin is going to be good and irritated, especially on my neck. And so in other words, it's just not going to work well for me. So I need something a bit sharper edge, if you will. Hope everybody's doing well. We did get our rain this past weekend. Some of the creeks, rivers were starting to overflow and all that sort of thing, which is kind of typical around here. There's, I guess you might say, the usual suspects. They'll start to flood and go over the banks and all that sort of thing. Maybe one of these years it'll get sorted out, maybe not. It is quite interesting sometimes. Just knock that over. It is quite interesting sometimes what it takes to get some of those sort of issues lined out. Some of these creeks have been flooding for as long as I can remember. Get a decent amount of rain either here locally or a little bit further from the north, because that's where it goes down at. Some of these creeks and rivers have a tendency to continue to flood. Maybe one day. Oh, also, if you're wondering where this, I got links down below, but this one here came by the way of Maggots razors. And Brad does a great job putting the edge on here. For me, this particular 6/8 size works well for me. I have not tried the 5/8. I've had the 5/8 in the cart a few times. I haven't quite pulled the trigger on it. I've been tempted to try it just to see what it's like. To see if it's as easy to shave with as this one here is. And I say the edge on this one here is very smooth. It's a fantastic edge. So I don't know whether it has anything to do with the steel, or does it have something to do with the person that's honing it. I'm not sure which one. But I am tempted, matter of fact, probably here pretty soon, send a few straight razors up to Brad and see how they come back and see what kind of edge they are, and whether it's the steel versus the person honing it. In other words, which one is it? And it'll probably kind of dictate where my purchases might go in the future if I find out that it's the steel. Because the idea is that, because I guess you might say if you listen to enough folks, some steel takes the edge differently than others. You hone the same way, different straight razors, different kind of steel, and the edges are different. And I understand, steel does that. And I can shave, typically with, just like DE blades, different kind of blades, and they feel different, but, still very much usable. And but this one here, so far, it's the smoothest I've ever had. Now you try to go and compare these to a gold dollar. I can shave with a gold dollar. The edge is different, yes it is, but still very much usable, still very pleasant to use. It's just that there's a big difference in between the edges I have on my gold dollars and this one here. There's a big difference. Not saying so much that one is sharper than the other one, it's just one smoother to shave with than the other. Once again, I'm kind of thinking it's less about the person honing as opposed to the steel that it's made out of. Also down below, in the way of links, I found a video where somebody took the time to visit where these straight razors are made at. and a short little video also talking about the how the scales are made. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Well, I was going to say handles. Every once in a while, I know that Chris mentions it, and maybe a few others. Wet shaving is that the you get a few stray whiskers that grow up here, and sometimes I do a good job catching one side one day, and then the next day maybe not quite so well. So if you ever wonder about that, yeah, I get ones way up here. Not very many. They're strays. At least that's what I call them, strays that go way up there. Talking about straight razors that are, how can you say, new to me and whatnot. I'm trying to remember to get a link down below for Tim's video where his sweetheart got him a new straight razor from West Coast Shaving. It's got some red scales that look nice. Matter of fact, I was even thinking about, in other words, one of these Ralf Aust, getting it brand new, and then having Brad go ahead and put on a different kind of scale on there to, in other words, I want red. And West Coast Shaving sells a straight razor that has a red scale, which to me just looks awesome. And Tim was shaving with it, and Tim was talking about how it was, that supposed to be shave ready, straight from West Coast Shaving. And so, in other words, he was, we're going to take it to, put it to the test, and he did a video shaving with it, and he felt like it was shave ready, at least for him it was. So that is just, speaking to the what may be shave ready for some folks versus others. I have not tried one from West Coast Shaving, so one of these days maybe I might venture out and put one in the cart and actually buy it. But Tim did a video with his, and you might be interested in checking that out. It may be just because I'm missing them, been quite busy here lately, work and just stuff going on, and by the end of the day and next morning I'm dragging butt. Anyway, I don't recall seeing any videos with a West Coast straight razor. They could be out there, maybe I just missed them. In other words, just too busy and just didn't catch it. I didn't look them up either, if that helps any. But it is good to hear that the straight razors are being sent out, at least, where you could actually shave with them. Because, some places when you order a straight razor, some will offer honing services, and some of them, they just sell them and it's up to you to get them honed or whatnot, which is kind of a drawback, for some folks, because now that you pay for the shipping or whatever to get the straight razor to you, now you got to box it up and send it to the person to have it honed, and then you get it. It's just by the time everything's done and over with, you're probably looking at a whole month of that sort of thing going on with shipping and the time it takes to get things accomplished, and it makes you want to go to a site where they put the edge on for you. I have spent just a little bit of time wrapping my mind around, in other words, starting, I guess you might say, on the easier side of things, which might be, maybe it's not as easy as it sounds. I don't know. I'm going to find out one day here pretty soon where I've got let's say a straight razor that the edge is close, but just not quite there. And it's to the point where I don't want to use it because, in other words, it's just not quite sharp enough. And maybe if I refresh the edge on the straight razor, it becomes usable. So I'm looking into starting there with getting a stone or two or three or whatever the case might be. In other words, getting set up to be able to refresh my edges on my straight razors and get them up to where I like them, and getting a little bit closer. In other words, I think in other words, after watching videos and reading stuff and trying to identify what stones do I want to use and how do I want to do this, and because there's going to be an expense. In other words, they're not free. And also, how can you say, I value different opinions. One person may suggest one thing, one person may suggest another. It's kind of like shaving. What works for you may not work for somebody else. And honing, I think, is the same way, especially if you're looking for a particular edge. So you're, in other words, you're striving for, that edge, and somebody else may not want to go through that kind of effort. Don't need to, they don't feel like. So I'm kind of thinking that I might be putting my own spin on it, if you will. Whether you jump from, like, for instance, you go from 10,000 grit to 12,000, do you go from 10,000 to 16,000? In other words, what jump do you go from one to the next in the way of progression, and or do you need to take smaller steps? Figuring all that out, I think it's going to be trial and error, which means you're going to have a few extra stones probably. Have to say that this edge is very smooth. If you're looking to get started into straight razor shaving and you hear about different kind of edges and whatnot, and this one here is very smooth. It's probably the smoothest edge I have. I do have some other straight razors that I got from Facebook group Straight Razor Place. Now, the gentleman that I've been buying these straight razors from, the ones with the smaller blades, now those edges are pretty darn close to this, not quite. And he mentions in there about his progression, what he uses in the way of grit, going from one spot to the next as it goes for how he hones. And which is helpful for me because it gives me some sort of idea of what he's using. I've shaved with his edges. I know how those feel. And I think he touches, the final touch on the stone is a 20K, if I remember right. And it does give me some sort of idea, in other words, how high up, because I think they make a 30K also, and I don't know that. It's one of those things, how far do you really need to go to get the edge that you're looking for? In other words, not end up buying more stones than what you're really needing. Trying to keep that cost within reason, because, after you do that, then I'm a step closer to go ahead and buying the rest of the stones to start doing my own honing. And once you start adding up all those stones, those dollar amounts, it does start to grow. The number gets kind of big. So it is something that, I give a lot of consideration to getting started. Because I know that once I buy the finishing stones, ones to refresh my edges, I just, a little bit of stinging right there. Once I do that, I know I'm going to end up getting the rest of them. And I do have some, I'm not starting out on, how you say, my favorite shavers by any means when it comes to honing, but I do have 3 gold dollars that have not been honed. In other words, you find your inexpensive website and you pay your $10 or whatever it is that the going price is, and I've got, I think, 3 of them set aside, maybe 4, but I know I got 3 for sure. And that's what I plan on learning on as it goes when I start actually honing. In other words, setting the bevel and going forward. Have to tell you, boy, this edge though on this Ralf Aust is really nice. I haven't seen anybody complain about a Ralf Aust. They come in different shapes and sizes. The 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. The 7/8 is as big as I've seen, at least on maggots, I should say. Like I say, the edges are really nice. Come with different scales if you like horn, or you can go with the inexpensive one here with the plastic. Just depending on what you're wanting to weigh up horns, the points. They've got there's a 6/8 that just looks just awesome. I think it's referred to as an American point, and it is intriguing. But that handle looks like it's a half a mile long. But anyway, I had a great shave this morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay healthy, stay safe, and smooth shaves to you.